Today's sermon is Expanding the Sacred, and our guest speaker is Emmeline Cordingley. Our gathering music video was Imagine, performed by the a cappella group Pentatonics. Imagine, what a song for today's world. We're having at least some kind of peace discussions between Ukraine and Russia. The world living as one, no need for greed or hunger. Imagine all the people sharing all the world. Now that sounds like a sacred way to live. Pentatonics was formed in 2011. They have won 3 Grammy Awards, one in 2015, 2016, and 2017. When Sony's Epic Records dropped the group, they hooked up with another part of Sony and formed their own YouTube channel. They currently have over 19 million subscribers and 5 billion views. And there's so much sacred in our connections to the earth, to music, and especially to each other. As Unitarians, we can and do imagine. And with Emmeline, we will further explore the sacred. Welcome to all. My name is Rachel Daniels. I'm your worship associate, and this is another hybrid service, both in person and by Zoom. In Unitarian Universalism, we care about you and accept you for who and what you are. We recognize that each of us in our own unique spiritual journey are here and we come together. No matter who you love, your age, the color of your skin, your immigration or economic status, you are loved for who you are. This is a safe space to stand out, stand up, and change your mind. Our main doctrine is love. Each Sunday service is a community effort. The sound, PowerPoint, other AV magic, we give our thanks to Pam and Don. Live music comes from Carole, our music director. Posting the hymn words is done by Dara. Lit candles, hot coffee, delicious cookies, maintained sanctuary, beautiful flowers out front are brought to you by Paul and Candy. Scheduling of speakers and juggling availability, that's done by Kendra. Cindy Williams posts on Facebook. Kendra posts on other social media. The board and worship committee and all of you here in the sanctuary and on Zoom are keeping us all together, and we thank you for your support and for joining us today. Now we have a slide that's going to be put up that talks about our upcoming services. And today, we are very excited and lucky to have Harvard-bound Emmeline here with us and to explore expanding the sacred. Next week, we'll have Stacy Pepperton for an experience in sound healing that you won't want to miss. And then on April 17th, Greg Carole Boyd is another exciting speaker. He'll be returning. He hasn't been here in a while, so it'll be great to have him back. And then on April 24th, that's our Social Justice Sunday, we have Adam Overton from Clue filling us in on the many opportunities to get involved in local social justice issues in Orange County. Last week, Brian and I attended a Zoom meeting with Clue and city officials from all over the region and other churches and representatives to support the grocery workers. There were over 100 in attendance. And they have several protests coming up. One is today, later in the afternoon. And then there's several more during the week as the grocery workers continue bargaining for a living wage. And if anybody wants more information, see me or go to the Clue website. Now, today's sermon on expanding the sacred. Emmeline will help us look at what we can learn about ourselves and the world by questioning how the term sacred is typically used. And Emmeline will assist us in looking at ourselves and how we can reclaim the personal power by redefining sacred. Emmeline is a Master of Divinity student. They are transitioning from Starr King School for the Ministry to Harvard Divinity School. Originally from Massachusetts, Emmeline has lived in LA for over the past 3 years and will be returning to Massachusetts to attend Harvard. They enjoy walking in the mountains, drinking fancy coffee, and listening for the sacred in the rustling of trees. with this topic, which I love, which Emmeline gave to us, I'm thinking about what's sacred in my life and how I experience what I call sacred. So much of what is sacred to me is in the magic of nature, sort of like what Emmeline said above in that, above, because I'm reading it, so it's in the paragraph above, but she talked about the sacred in the rustling of the trees. And for me, I get connected to that, especially through the eyes of the grandchildren who are ages 2 through 5. Everything is looked at with awe by them. Life and our connections are sacred. And then a friend of my daughter, Haven, decided to get an iguana as a pet. Okay, I've never bonded with reptiles. They don't speak to me. And Haven hadn't either. But her 2-year-old twins are just in love with this iguana. They just giggle and laugh, and they're just so thrilled with it. And again, that awe. And then Haven and I did some minimal research. Iguanas like to have a stuffed animal in their cage, green in color. They will get separation anxiety because they bond with their owners. And they don't eat spinach. It makes them ill because of the oxalic acid in it. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but there are so many similarities to us as humans, well, except for the spinach and Popeye thing, but this is a magic, a connection. And that's what looks sacred to me, that awe of life and the oneness of it all is sacred. So I'm very excited to hear what Emmeline has to say on expanding the sacred. And for those on Zoom, the order of service for today's program is in the email notice sent to you. For those in the fellowship, we have copies of the order of service, which I welcome you to grab. It's in the back of the room. And also for those of us in the fellowship, if you have a silent joy or sorrow, we have our candles over there and you're welcome to light one, and we'll have spoken joys and sorrow later in the service. And Emmeline will stick around for a short time after the service to answer any questions. With that, we will be lighting our chalice. Everywhere on Sunday mornings, Unitarians light the chalice. And if you have one at home, please grab a candle and light one. Emmeline will light our chalice here as I read our chalice lighting words from the UUA website. We are all flames when we gather hand in hand in our church, our community, our home. We inspire, we celebrate, we come together. Sharing this light of hope and love for our future, our shared future together. Now for our centering thought, it's from Albert Einstein, and we will read this together. And it'll show on the screens. So if you're by Zoom, please unmute. And for those here in the sanctuary, please read along with me. The intuitive mind
is a sacred gift. And the rational mind is a faithful servant.
We have created a
society
that honors
has
the servant
forgotten the
and
gift.
has forgotten the gift.
Now we turn to our music director, Carole, for our opening hymn, Here on the Paths of Every Day. And it's in our gray hymnal. The words will be in chat, thanks to Dara. And please feel free, if you're here in the fellowship, to hum along. And if you're on Zoom, you'll stay muted, but please sing along.
Good morning, everyone. So this first hymn is one that I don't remember ever doing before, but I liked it when I rehearsed it. And I thought, well, it's time to learn a new song. So it's pretty simple. It really only has 2 melody lines in it. And so it goes like first melody, we'll call that A, and then a B section, and then back to A. So I'm going to play A and then B for you, and then we'll sing it together. So get ready to learn. I'll sing it for you, just the first part. Here on the paths of every day, here on the common human way. So that's part A and part C. And then here's part B. Is all the stuff that God's would take to back to, I said C, back to A. The very desires, not tasks of mine, to build eternity in time. ABA. All right, here we go. Let's try it. Ready? Go. Here on the paths of every day, here on the common human way, is all the stuff that God would take to build the heaven, to mold and make new even hours, the tasks of mine, to build eternity in time. We need no other stones to build the temple of the unfulfilled. No other ivory for the doors, no other marble for the floors, no other cedar for the beam, and all of our immortal dream. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Morning. Our call to worship today was written by Amy Mackenzie Quinn. Welcome to this common sacred space. Common because we are all welcome. Sacred because here we transform the ordinary and attend to the profound. We carry with us our regrets, doubts, fears, stories, laughter. May they inspire our worship. Above all, may we each meet what we need most to find on this day in this common sacred space.
Now we have our Unison Affirmation. Please unmute yourselves. And if you're here in the sanctuary, look at the screens and we will read the Unison Affirmation to remind ourselves why we come together. Love
is the spirit of this fellowship,
and
and its service is its law.
This
is our great covenant,
to dwell
together in
to
peace,
grow together in peace, seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Now we're going to pause our recording for joys and sorrows.
So our reading today is an excerpt from the Babylonian Talmud, which is a sacred text in the Jewish tradition. They asked Hillel the elder, 1st century BCE, "Where are you going?" He replied, "I'm going to perform a sacred deed." They asked, "And what is this sacred deed of Hillel?" He said, "I am going to the house of the chair, i.e., the toilet." They asked, "But is that a sacred thing to do?" He said, "Yes, indeed, for by so doing, one prevents the body from deteriorating." Another time they asked him, "Where are you going?" He replied, "I am going to perform a sacred deed." They asked, "And what is the sacred deed of Hillel this time?" He replied, "I am going to the bathhouse." They asked, "Is this a sacred thing to do?" He said, "Yes, indeed, for by so doing, one cleanses the body. Know that the statues of Caesar that are erected in the arenas are but facsimiles of the image of God, yet the Romans wash them daily. If that which is but a facsimile of the divine image is deserving of such honors, so much more so is the body, which was actually created in the image of God."
I love that. That's actually, you said you talk about ways to expand what we think is the sacred. Thank you, Emmeline. Okay. There are many ways to support the fellowship. And one of the ways is through your financial support. Carole will be playing while we're passing the basket here in the fellowship. We also have the slide up that shows ways to donate. And the e-blast for today's service also has ways that you can make payments online or mail in your checks. So with that, Candy will be passing the basket. And thank you, Candy. Now, please stand as you feel comfortable, and we'll sing "From You I Receive, to You I Give. Together we share, and from this we live."
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.
Thank you all. Now we're going to do a very short meditation, contemplation, prayer, whatever feels right for you. And just close your eyes, breathe. Maybe think of a flower or the wind on your face. And just keep your eyes closed and just feel the breath throughout your body as oxygen goes down to your toes and up your legs and torso, fingers, arms, neck, head, bringing oxygen and breath to all parts of your body. And we'll just breathe in and out for a moment, and then Carole will bring us out of our meditation and just
Good morning again. Hello, everyone. It is so lovely to see you all again and to be here with you. Every time I'm here, I feel like it's a gift to be together and to be allowed to speak to you at all, and is of itself a sacred thing. And that, of course, is what I want to speak about today, this idea of the sacred, exploring it and expanding it. I thought of this sermon topic when I was on a job with really long hours, driving an hour every day to work, 10 hours, then drive an hour back home, feeling very exhausted and kind of uninspired, and doing work that wasn't very difficult, but also like wasn't very fulfilling, you know? And one morning I was stuck in traffic. And the car in front of me somehow caught my attention. It was this fancy little car, very clean and well-maintained. It had one single bumper sticker placed above the rear window, very visible to other commuters. And it said, Led Zeppelin. And something about this combination was really endearing to me, that this person loved Led Zeppelin so much that they wanted to bless their beautifully well-kept car with a single sticker placed so it would be at eye level with the driver of the car behind them at all times. And I thought, how delightful is this? What delightful tendencies humans have. And for some reason, the word sacred popped into my mind then, that this was a sacred thing to behold. The care and attention someone had poured into the choice and placement of this sticker, the uniqueness of this individual wanting to publicly announce their love for something. And the Oxford Dictionary offers one definition of sacred that for me encapsulates this moment. Sacred, regarded with great respect and reverence by a particular religion, group, or individual. And this driver certainly had a reverence for Led Zeppelin. Interpreting the sacred in this way is at odds with how we most often hear it referenced in association with God or prayer, holy buildings, religious texts, and the major faiths. But the sacred lives beyond those confines. It isn't bound to a denomination or even to religion at all. And this line of thinking pushes the boundaries of what we've been taught is sacred and who is an authority on it, who has the right to decide what is and isn't worthy of reverence. I grew up Catholic, a faith that was beautiful to me in many ways, but in Catholicism, the boundary between what is sacred and what is not is strictly enforced, defined by a group of white, powerful men and not up for debate. This dynamic is mirrored by many different institutions. Any powerful group, religious or otherwise, can attempt to define what is sacred, what should be revered or feared or set apart. And we see this history in our own country in many instances. A prime example is the US government, which has said to indigenous peoples many times, oh, the land is not sacred. It can't be sacred to you, by which they mean, we want that land to rule it and profit from it. So the notion of sacred has been wielded for political and often violent ends. And we see this through global history as well, especially apparent in the mission to colonize other countries. Europeans using one interpretation of Christianity to say, no, those deities, those stories, and that clothing, those prayers can't be sacred to you. Here's a new, different savior. These examples are not meant to denigrate religion on the whole, but just to highlight the difference between religion as an institution of power and the sacred. Religious institutions are subject to rules, dogma, dynamics of power and control, but the sacred is not. It cannot be contained. It is pervasive, limitless, shape-shifting. It can be perceived and encountered through innumerable lenses, including, of course, religion. But what's usually left out of that conversation is that everyone, regardless of belief or non-belief, has access to the sacred. We've been told that the sacred can't be messy or unruly, confusing or personal, but that is not true. What is sacred is not restricted to the church or the temple, the mosque, and it's not restricted to the faithful. When we move sacredness out of the sole grasp of religious institutions, we are reclaiming this truth, that the sacred is a public notion. It is meant for the collective, not for the powerful to wield. And that is the point that Hillel, the elder from our reading today, is trying to make. As Hillel's going about his day, when his students ask him where he's going, and he says to perform a sacred task, he says, I'm going to the house of the chair, meaning the toilet. He's going to use the toilet. And what a dignified way of saying that. Maybe I'll take that up, the house of the chair. And then later he says he's going to the bathhouse, and his students are incredulous. Using the bathroom and washing our bodies can be sacred tasks. Well, Hillel here is upending the notion of sacredness that, especially at the time, was promoted by the Roman Empire. He's uplifting this often overlooked sacredness of the body, of the mundane or the profane. And in the spirit of challenging prescribed notions of the sacred, I'd like to invite us back to another mini meditation to consider what in our lives we consider sacred to us. And maybe it's certain people, our relationship with them, maybe your favorite food, a favorite season, your favorite film. It could be a memory, an annual event, a family tradition. It could really be anything. I'd like to spend just a minute or so in contemplation here. If it helps you to think, you can close your eyes again. You don't have to. Just taking time to consider what sacred means to us individually. Taking a breath together now and coming back to our group setting. I also would love to hear if anyone wants to share later what came to mind. I would be honored to hear that. For whatever came to mind for you just now, how might it change our relationship to those things or people or activities if we label them as sacred? I've found that naming things as sacred, specifically using that label, brings an awareness that can shift my perception, can lead to an expanding circle of sacredness. For example, and I was very aware of the bird song in our moment of silence, something that feels very sacred to me is hearing the evening song of the mockingbirds. For a reason that scientists aren't exactly sure of, mockingbirds sing at night during the warm spring and summer evenings. And in my old apartment, they nested in a tree right outside my bedroom window. And their song would stream in loud and very clear for hours as I laid in bed, which was beautiful, and then like less beautiful when it's like 1 a.m. But still something about hearing birdsong in the dark without the audio competition that daylight brings, like the sounds of speeding cars, other birds, people laughing and talking and yelling. Something about a night song makes it feel lifted out of this world, really magical and sacred. To go back to the dictionary definition, if sacred means regarded with great reverence and respect, then there is a place for participation in that definition. Who is the one doing the regarding, doing the respecting and revering? Each of us, any of us. If the mockingbird song is sacred to me, it's because I am regarding it with reverence. I am then brought into the act of sacredness by my regarding, by my respect for it. In this way, bringing our attention to what we consider sacred actually expands our sense of sacredness and can even bring about a change in us. When I look at the mockingbird through this lens of expansion, I can say that if their singing is sacred, so too are the warm nights that inspire them to their evening song. And so too are my ears which hear it. If mockingbirds are sacred to me, then all the conditions that make it possible for them to sing and for me to hear it must be sacred too. And this reminds me of what you said, Rachel, about the eyes of children who see everything with awe and wonder. And this is kind of the idea I want to leave you with. What if everything is sacred? Mockingbirds and Zoom and your presence here and Led Zeppelin, what if they can all be regarded with respect and reverence? And what does that do to us, to our understanding and our ways of being if everything is sacred? How does it change us to simply ask the question, what if everything is sacred? Thank you all.
Thank you, Emmeline. I know it's given me so much to ponder. Instead of cursing the roosters at 3 a.m, I'm going to think about the sacredness. And just a quick shout out to Gerard and the dog. That is so beautiful, and thinking about those sacred connections. Anyway, it was really a great sermon. I really appreciate you and your sermon. Thank you. Now we turn to our music director, Carole, for our closing hymn, number 145, Gray Hymnal, As Tranquil Streams. And I invite everyone here to sing along or hum along. And if you're at home, please stay muted. And thanks to Dara for putting the words into chat.
Please join me. As tranquil streams that meet and merge and flow as one to seek and see. Our kindred hearts have come tonight to build a church that shall be free. Free from the bonds that bind the mind to narrow thoughts and lifeless greed. Free from the social code that fails to turn the bonds of human need. A freedom that reveals the past, but trusts the dawning future. And gives us hope in search of truth, a pleasure beyond explore. Profound church of future waits, your liberating business free. Forward in the power of love, proclaim the truth that makes us free.
Thank you, Carole. That was beautiful. And let's see, as Emmeline extinguishes the chalice, I have just a very quick extinguishing chalice words. As you walk upon the sacred earth, treat each step as a prayer, from Black Elk. Now, Emmeline will do our benediction.
Our benediction was written by Israel Bafardi. My friends, when you go from here, know that our hearts are always in a holy place, for we are always connected to one another. Know that deep down, our hearts beat in one universal rhythm. May we each find the sacred space to hear it. And now our final song.
Now we will join our hearts and our voices. If you're here in the sanctuary, please stand and we'll sort of form a circle as we sing, "Let There Be Peace on Earth." And if you're at home, please stay muted and sing along with us.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With earth as our mother, we are family. Let us walk with each other, perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my song vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth. Let it begin with me. Have a lovely day. Thank you.